In this tutorial, what we're going to do is go over two separate things. The first one is adding a menu system to our game. So at the moment, the game just starts instantly, and what we really want to happen is eventually a splash screen of the game logo and then a menu scene where you get to press start happen before the game actually starts running. So today we're going to add the menu scene, and on that menu scene we're going to add some text which we haven't done before. So to begin this, the first thing we're going to do is add this thing called a palette. So a palette is what the PyBadge uses to render the text so that it knows what kind of color to make it. So I have here what's called the red palette, and this is just a bunch of hexadecimal numbers that represent what the outline of the text is going to be and what the infill is going to be. So I've posted this on the website for today so that you don't need to write it down and make a mistake. So just copy and paste that and place it into your constants.py file and make sure that you indent it properly, and we're going to use this in our code. So we're just going to save that to our PyBadge and make sure that our game is still running properly. The next thing we're going to do is our code at the moment starts and goes to our function called GameScene, but we're going to create a menu scene that happens first. So we're just going to change this value so that our game actually goes to the menu scene first. The next thing we're going to do is scroll up, and the code that we have for our game scene, we're just going to copy this entire function and make a copy of it and then rename that to game scene. So we're just going to scroll all the way down. Copy this. So at the bottom, we're just going to leave our function that we copied called game scene. So we're going to leave this alone. That's an exact copy. And then we're going to go up to our second copy of it, and we're going to rename this menu scene. So our code's going to start here first, and when we're done displaying the menu, then we're going to go to game scene. So to display the menu, we're going to use this same image bank, this space alien background. So we're just going to delete the things we don't need for the menu scene. So we're not going to need an image of this spaceship, so we can delete that. We don't actually need to take care of the button states, because what's going to happen is we're just going to say press the start button. So we just have to look at the start button, and it doesn't matter about state at all. So we can get rid of all of this button state stuff for the menu scene. We don't need that. The sound, at the moment, we're just going to delete the sound as well for the menu scene. We're not going to have any. On our splash scene, eventually we're going to have some. We're going to have our image bank as normal, so we're going to keep that code, and we can just grab the initial 0th image, so that's not going to change. Once again, our spaceship, we don't need the spaceship and the aliens for our menu scene, so we can delete that. So we're just going to have the background image at the moment. We're going to change that and add text shortly, but we're not going to do that right now. And all of this weird button state stuff, we can get rid of that, because all we're going to check is if someone presses the start button. So all this stuff we can get rid of, and we're only interested in the start button. If someone presses the start button, then what do we want to do? We're eventually going to go to the game scene. So all the moving of the spaceship, all this code, we can get rid of that. And we're not going to be rendering any of our sprites, so even this line of code we can get rid of, because we're just going to have a blank screen, white screen with our text. So when we press the start button, what we want to do is actually go straight away to the game scene. So we've removed a whole bunch of code from our menu scene. So when the game starts, we're going to get the background image. We're going to pick the 0th element, which is white, and we're just going to present that on our background. And then we're just going to enter our gaming loop, and if they press the start button, then we hop over to the game scene. So that's all that it's going to do. So I'm just going to save that and make sure that our code works properly. And our scene shows up white, and when you press the start button, it just goes to the start. So that works fine. So the next thing that I'm going to add is the information for our text. So I'm just going to copy some code and then paste it on. Double check where I want to place it. It's right after the image bank. Yep. So we're going to create a new variable called text, and as we've mentioned before, these square brackets means that it is actually a list. So we're going to take this variable text, and we're going to add several instances of text to it, so it holds more than one thing. So I'm going to create another variable called text, and you'll notice it has stage.text, just like before we had we were using this stage method that came from up here. So stage lets us also print out text. So the way this works is this is the width and the height of our text. We're going to be using the default font, and over here you'll see palette.constants underscore red palette. So this is what color my font is going to be. Then what we do is we actually take this text object and we move its cursor to this location. So we move 20 pixels over and 10 pixels down. And then we want to write the text MT Game Studio. And then we take this object, which was text1, and we add it or append it to this list. So the way it works is you use the stage object, tell it how big you want it, what font and what color, you move the cursor to a location, you print the text out, and then you append it. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. So we take another variable, so text2 of that text object, we move it to a different location, although it's the same color. Sorry, that's the height. We move it to a different location, and this time it says press start, and then we add it to the first one as well. So this is how you actually get text objects created in your code. Once you have them, you're going to have to add them to your game layer, just like we did last time. So I'm just going to make sure I have the exact right code. Because these are a list and they're already inside square brackets, the variable text, they were already a list. We don't have to place them inside square brackets. So we append the text to it, and then we render our background, and then we're just going to sit there and wait to see if someone presses the start button, and when they do press the start button, then it goes to our game scene, and that's what's going to be happening. So we're going to save that. And when you see it now, you'll see your background image show up, and you will see text show up on your screen that says MT Game Studio, and press start, and when you press the start button, it will then show up to your it'll go to your game scene and start running. So that's how you actually get text showing up on your PyBadge.